Have you ever noticed how the loudest person in the room often seems the most insecure? The one who's constantly speaking, constantly proving a point, constantly needing to be heard. It's strange, isn't it? Because the people who truly hold power, real unshakable strength, often don't need to say a word. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor of Rome, understood this better than anyone. In a world of political scheming, betrayals, and endless noise, he chose silence as a weapon. Not because he was timid, not because he lacked opinions, but because he knew something most people forget. Silence is strength. And today, we're going to unpack exactly why. Why did one of history's greatest philosophers believe that choosing not to speak could be a sign of greater wisdom and resilience than shouting your opinions from the rooftops? Why did he see restraint, rather than reaction, as the mark of a powerful soul? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might just rethink the way you handle conflict, criticism, and the constant pressure to have the last word. You'll see how silence isn't weakness. It's a powerful force that can shift dynamics, command respect, and protect your peace. So, let's step into the mind of Marcus Aurelius and discover why sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Now let's step back for a moment and imagine the world Marcus Aurelius lived in. The Roman Empire at its peak was a place of immense power, political intrigue, and constant danger. As emperor, Marcus wasn't just ruling an empire, he was navigating a storm. Friends could become enemies overnight. Courtiers whispered in the shadows. Senators plotted in secret rooms. Every word spoken in public could be twisted, used against you, or spark a rebellion. In such a world, your voice wasn't just a tool, it was a weapon. And like any weapon, it could either protect you or destroy you. Marcus knew that speaking without control was dangerous. He understood that reacting in anger or exposing your emotions too freely made you vulnerable, because once your enemies know what stirs you, they own you. Think about it. How often in your own life has a careless word spoken in the heat of the moment come back to haunt you? A message you wish you hadn't sent, an argument you wish you'd walked away from. Words, once released, cannot be taken back. They carry weight. They shape perceptions. They linger in the minds of others long after you've forgotten them. Marcus Aurelius wasn't silent because he was weak. He was silent because he was wise. He chose his words like a master swordsman chooses his strikes, carefully, intentionally, and only when necessary. In his personal writings, now known as meditations, Marcus often reminded himself to remain calm in the face of insults, to refrain from gossip, and to avoid reacting impulsively. He believed that silence could be a form of discipline, a test of inner strength. In one of his most famous reflections, he wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to disturb your peace if something doesn't concern you." Isn't that a powerful thought? In a world obsessed with opinions, where everyone feels the urge to comment on everything, from celebrity scandals to political debates, Marcus reminds us that we don't have to engage with every little thing. We don't have to weigh in. We don't have to react. Sometimes silence is not avoidance. It's wisdom. Imagine yourself in a tense situation. Someone insults you, challenges you, provokes you. What's your instinct? To defend yourself? To fire back with sharper words? That's natural. But Marcus would advise a different path. Take a breath. Hold your tongue. Observe. Because in silence, you reclaim control. You rise above petty battles. You refuse to be dragged into chaos. And more importantly, you conserve your strength for what truly matters. In fact, throughout history, some of the most respected leaders, thinkers, and warriors have understood the value of measured silence. The samurai had a saying, "The tongue is the sword of a woman, but silence is the sword of a man," not to imply silence is only for men, but to highlight that restraint, regardless of who practices it, is often the mark of maturity and wisdom. Even today, in boardrooms, courtrooms, and conflict zones, it's often the quietest person in the room who holds the most power. Why? Because silence unnerves people. It forces others to reveal themselves. It makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability is a position of strength. Marcus Aurelius didn't seek power through volume. He didn't win loyalty through loud declarations. He ruled by example, through calm presence, thoughtful action, and words spoken rarely, but remembered forever. And in a moment, we'll dive even deeper into how you can apply this timeless wisdom to your own life. Because believe it or not, the ability to stay silent, especially when your ego is screaming to react, is a superpower in disguise. Stay with me. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly does silence become a form of strength? Isn't it sometimes cowardly to stay quiet? Shouldn't we stand up for ourselves, speak our minds, defend our beliefs? And yes, there's a time for words, there's a time for truth. But Marcus Aurelius understood something deeper about human nature. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to reply. In heated moments, conversations aren't really about truth. They're about ego, about proving who's right, about scoring points. And when you stay silent, you step outside that childish game. Silence gives you space. It lets emotions settle. It allows you to see the bigger picture while others are still lost in their need to be heard. Marcus believed that speaking without reflection was like a soldier swinging his sword wildly in battle, reckless, dangerous, and likely to harm both others and yourself. But to hold back, to observe, to wait, that takes courage. It takes discipline. In Meditations, he wrote, "If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it." Such a simple line. But imagine if we actually lived by that standard. How many pointless arguments, online fights, and hurtful words could we avoid? How many regrets could we spare ourselves if we paused, just for a moment, before speaking? There's a reason why silence unnerves people. In conversations, we're used to constant feedback, nods, agreements, interruptions. But when someone stays quiet, it forces others to fill the space. It reveals their insecurities, their assumptions, their need for validation. And in that silence, you learn more about people than you ever could through words. Picture a general surveying a battlefield from a distance, while his enemies shout and clash below. That general isn't weak for standing back. He's wise. He waits for the right moment. He lets the noise reveal weaknesses. That's what Marcus did, and it's what we can do in our daily lives. In relationships, at work, in conflict, there will always be temptations to react. Someone criticizes you unfairly. A colleague spreads a rumor. A stranger disrespects you online. Your instinct is to jump in, defend yourself, explain your side. But every time you react, you give away a little of your power. You let others control your emotions. Silence, on the other hand, is like a shield. It protects your peace. It gives you time to decide, is this worth my energy? Is this battle necessary? Will my words bring clarity or just fuel the fire? And more often than not, you'll realize it's not worth it. This doesn't mean you suppress your voice forever. Stoicism isn't about becoming a mute statue. It's about mastering yourself, about choosing when to speak and when to stay silent, about making your words meaningful because they aren't thrown around carelessly. That's why, even centuries later, people still quote Marcus Aurelius. Not because he spoke often, but because when he did, it mattered. His silence wasn't emptiness, it was presence. It was a reminder that real strength isn't in how loudly you can shout, but in how calmly you can stand. And in just a moment, we're going to look at some real-life situations, moments you've probably faced, and I'll show you how this wisdom can completely change the way you navigate them. You'll see how silence, when used intentionally, can turn tense situations in your favor, disarm difficult people, and give you back control of your emotions. So don't go anywhere. The best part is coming next. Let's bring this wisdom into the modern world for a moment. Because while we no longer live in marble palaces or command legions of Roman soldiers, the battles we fight today aren't so different. Now the battlefields are office boardrooms, family dinner tables, and social media comment sections. And just like in ancient Rome, one careless word can spark conflict, ruin relationships, or damage your reputation in an instant. Think about it. You post something harmless on social media. Within minutes, someone leaves a rude comment. It's tempting, isn't it? To fire back, to prove them wrong, to show everyone watching that you won't be disrespected. But here's the truth. Most of the time, that reaction says more about your insecurity than about their insult. And when you respond in anger, you let a stranger, someone you'll never meet, steal your peace. This is where Marcus Aurelius's advice is pure gold. Before you type that comeback or clap back, pause. Ask yourself, will this improve the situation? Will it bring me peace? Or will it just feed a fire I don't need to be part of? 9 times. Out of 10, the answer is obvious. It's the same at work. Picture this. You're in a meeting, presenting an idea you've worked on for weeks. A colleague interrupts with a snide comment, dismissing your point in front of everyone. The room gets tense. All eyes turn to you. What do? The natural instinct is to defend yourself, maybe even throw a jab back. But the strongest move, in that moment, isn't to out-argue them. It's to stay calm, stay collected, and let your silence speak louder than any insult. Because while others are watching for your reaction, you show them who truly has control. The person who keeps their composure in chaos always commands the most respect. Even in personal relationships, this wisdom applies. A partner, a friend, or a family member might say something hurtful in frustration. It stings. It triggers every defensive impulse inside you. But instead of escalating the conflict with a sharp reply, what if you held a moment of silence? What if you gave them, and yourself, the space to breathe, to think, to return to the conversation with clarity instead of anger? That one pause can save a relationship. It can turn a potential argument into a moment of understanding. And that, my friend, is the quiet kind of strength Marcus was talking about. Because here's the thing no one tells you. People remember how you made them feel more than what you said. And when you stay calm, when you choose silence over needless conflict, you leave an impression of wisdom, steadiness, and quiet confidence. You become the kind of person others feel safe around, not because you're weak, but because you're in control of yourself. In fact, some of the most respected leaders in modern times have mastered this skill. Think of figures like Nelson Mandela, who spent years in prison but never let bitterness consume his voice. Or Malala Yousafzai, who responded to hatred not with rage, but with poise and courage. Their strength wasn't in how loud they could shout. It was in how gracefully they could endure. And that power, believe it or not, is already within you. It just needs to be practiced. In the next part, we'll explore exactly how you can start applying this in your daily life, through simple, practical habits drawn straight from the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Stay with me, because this is where philosophy stops being an idea and starts becoming a tool you can use every single day. So, how exactly do we practice this kind of silence in our modern, noisy world? Because let's be honest, staying silent isn't always easy, especially when emotions are running high, when pride is at stake, or when you feel like you've been wronged. But here's the good news. Like any other virtue, restraint can be trained, and it begins with awareness. The next time you feel that surge of anger, irritation, or impatience rising within you, pause. Just a brief moment. Notice what's happening inside your body. Maybe your heart starts racing, your jaw tightens, or your hands clench. These are the signs. Nature's little alarm bells letting you know you're about to lose control. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that it wasn't the event itself that harmed him, but his judgment about it. In other words, it's not what people say or do that truly disturbs us, but the way we choose to react. And if you can catch that moment before you react, you've already won half the battle. One practical way to train this is what I call the silent count. When you're about to say something sharp, defensive, or unnecessary, especially online or during an argument, silently count to 5. While you're counting, ask yourself, will this help or harm the situation? Is it worth my peace of mind? Is this something future me will be proud of or something I'll regret by tonight? You'd be amazed how often, by the time you reach 5, the urge to lash out weakens. It's like a wave cresting and slowly dissolving back into the sea. The situation itself might not have changed, but your grip over it has, and that's power. Another timeless practice is shifting your attention. When someone says something hurtful, instead of focusing on their words, shift your focus to their pain. Why would a person feel the need to insult, belittle, or provoke? Most often it's not because they're strong, but because they're carrying wounds of their own. Hurt people hurt people. And when you understand that, it becomes easier not to take things personally. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that every person acts according to their understanding and character. If someone is cruel, it's a reflection of their own soul, not yours. By staying silent, by choosing not to retaliate, you refuse to let their darkness dim your light. And then there's the art of nonverbal silence. Sometimes it's not just about words, but our expressions, our posture, our energy. A calm gaze, a gentle nod, a steady breath can speak louder than 100 sharp retorts. Think of those moments when someone expected you to break, to snap, to raise your voice, and instead you stayed centered. That unshakable presence becomes a force in itself. Even in ancient battlefields, the warrior who could hold his ground silently amidst chaos was often feared more than the one who shouted threats. Because silence, when it comes from a place of inner strength, is intimidating in the best possible way. It signals mastery over your mind, your tongue, your emotions. And let's be real, in a world where everyone's shouting to be heard, where noise fills every space from our phones to our streets, the person who can remain silent, composed, and clear becomes magnetic. People gravitate toward that kind of calm, because deep down, we all crave it. The truth is, every day life gives us small, simple opportunities to practice this kind of strength. In traffic, when someone cuts you off, in the office, when your ideas are overlooked, at home, when your partner says something unfair, or online, when a stranger leaves a rude comment. In those moments, remember Marcus's wisdom. It is better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles. Because the battle outside is nothing compared to the one within. And each time you choose silence, not as a retreat, but as a deliberate act of self-mastery, you are not avoiding the fight. You are winning it. In the next part, we'll explore a few real-life stories of modern people who've mastered this art. Ordinary individuals facing extraordinary situations who chose silence over impulse and how it transformed their lives. Trust me, you'll want to hear these. So, what does it mean for us, right here, right now, to embrace silence as strength? It means becoming the kind of person who doesn't let every passing emotion dictate their response. The kind of person who can hold space for discomfort, for misunderstanding, even for insult, without immediately needing to fill the air with noise. It means recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to say nothing, not out of fear, but from a deep, unshakable confidence. A confidence that whispers, I know who I am. I know what I stand for, and I don't need to prove it to anyone. And here's the beautiful part. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes, like a muscle quietly growing stronger in the background of your daily life. Until one day, you'll notice it. You'll find yourself in a situation where the old you might have snapped, argued, or lashed out, but now you remain calm, composed, centered, and in that moment, you'll feel it. Not emptiness, not weakness, but a quiet kind of power. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just offering advice for emperors or philosophers. He was speaking to us, to the parts of us that struggle with impulse, that crave validation, that get hurt by careless words. And he was reminding us that true strength has nothing to prove. So the next time life throws its inevitable chaos your way, a rude driver, a petty insult, a frustrating coworker, or an unexpected setback, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, is my peace worth giving up for this? Because most of the time, it's not. And when you choose silence, you're not avoiding life. You're mastering it. If this message spoke to you today, I'd love for you to be part of this journey with us. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment sharing a moment when choosing silence changed everything for you, and hit that like button so more people can discover the quiet strength within themselves. Because in a world full of noise, perhaps what we need most is a little more silence. Thank you for watching. Stay mindful, stay strong, and I'll see you in the next video.